and welcome to another episode of PodcastDX, the show that brings you interviews with people just like you, whose lives were forever changed by a medical diagnosis. I'm Lita. Jean is not with us today.
And I'm Ron.
Collectively, we're the hosts of PodcastDX. On today's show, we're speaking about food allergies. And Dominic in the other room, you better be paying attention to this one. To start us out, Ron, why don't you tell us what is a food allergy?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, according to the Mayo Clinic, a food allergy is actually an immune system reaction that occurs soon after eating a certain food. Even a tiny amount of the allergy-causing food can trigger signs and symptoms such as digestive problems, hives, or swollen airways. And in some people, a food allergy can cause severe symptoms, even up to a life-threatening reaction known as anaphylaxis. Actually, it's easy to confuse a food allergy with a much more common reaction known as food intolerance. While bothersome, food intolerance is actually a less serious condition that does not involve the immune system. Common signs and symptoms for food allergy include tingling or itching in the mouth, hives, itching or eczema, swelling of the lips, face, tongue, and throat, or other parts of the body. Also, wheezing, nasal congestion, or trouble breathing. Then there's abdominal pain, diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. And finally, it can cause dizziness, lightheadedness, or even fainting.
And emergency treatment is critical for anaphylaxis. Untreated, anaphylaxis can cause a coma or even death.
That's correct. You should see a doctor or an allergist if you have food allergy symptoms shortly after eating. And if possible, see your doctor when the allergic reaction is occurring. This will help your doctor make a diagnosis. And seek emergency treatment if you develop any signs or symptoms of anaphylaxis.
Well, maybe we should mention what the signs are of anaphylaxis.
Great idea. Again, the Mayo Clinic states, in some people, a food allergy can trigger a severe allergic reaction called anaphylaxis. This can cause life-threatening signs and symptoms including constriction and tightening of the airways, a swollen throat, or the sensation of a lump in your throat that makes it difficult to breathe, shock with a severe drop in blood pressure, a rapid pulse, and again, dizziness, lightheadedness, or loss of consciousness.
And with those symptoms, will a doctor be able to make a diagnosis, or do you have to go through testing to determine the cause of the symptoms and to find a definitive diagnosis?
Well, your allergist may recommend allergy tests, such as a skin test or blood test, to determine if you have a food allergy. In an allergy skin test for a food, a very small drop of a liquid food extract, one for each food needing to be tested, is placed on the person's skin. The skin is then lightly pricked. This is safe and generally not painful. And within 15 to 20 minutes, a raised bump with redness around it, similar to a mosquito bite, may appear. This test shows that you are sensitized to the food and probably allergic to that food. A sensitivity to a food can be indicated in a skin prick test or a blood test, but does not always show a true allergy unless there has been a previous reaction to that food. Sometimes an allergy blood test may be used. This typically involves drawing blood from a vein in the arm, and results are not usually available for at least a week. And if done properly, interpreted by a board-certified allergist, skin tests or blood tests are reliable and can rule in or out any food allergy. Some people test allergic, quote unquote, to a food by skin or blood testing and yet have no symptoms when they eat that food. And to confirm the test results, your allergist may recommend an oral food challenge, which means you eat or drink small portions of a food in increasing amounts over time to see if an allergic reaction occurs. This is usually done under physician supervision in a doctor's office or in a hospital setting.
Let me fill you in on some of the biggest misconceptions about food allergies. Number one, food is safe if it does not contain the allergens in the ingredient list. So let's say if you read the food label,
right.
It's an important strategy to staying safe. While the top 8 allergens have to be listed in the ingredient list if present, companies do not have to make consumers aware of the product if it's made on the same lines, like assembly lines.
I did not know that.
Or in the same facility as an allergen. For an example, a company that makes their nut milk products on the same equipment as their cow milk products, those individuals consuming cow's milk but have a nut allergy could be at risk for a possible cross-contamination. Now, Dominic was telling us this morning before you got here that he was in the hospital this week because of something like that. He went to, I guess, a restaurant, Dom, and the equipment that they used before wasn't cleaned all the way, and
right.
He ended up getting a little bit of something because of just that, cross-contamination.
But from a company standpoint, I mean, 2 things are bothersome. One, that they don't have to list all the ingredients, just the top 8. And 2, that, again, with so many people having allergies and allergic reactions to things, that they could actually process
in the same plant.
Right. That's surprising.
Yeah. Well, like I was going to make muffins this morning, right?
You're making me hungry.
Yeah, I bought some.
We're going to edit this out, or?
Yeah.
But you are making me hungry.
Yeah, so I was going to make muffins, and I brought out 2 boxes, and they looked identical, same color. One of them was a banana nut, and I know that Dominic's allergic to nut. The other one was a cinnamon something. I said, okay. And then I'm looking, and I'm like, made by the same company. I wonder if these were made in the same plant.
Right.
So I wonder if there could be dust or something or cross, or, like, have you ever seen on we're way off script. Have you ever seen on Facebook people who put like a can, they opened up a can of peas and it says peas on the outside and they open it up and it's corn.
Yeah, right.
Because they were made in the same company, right? So what if the banana nut mix got put into the cinnamon box?
But that's usually when you hear about recalls. When on the news they'll say,
Okay. Yeah,
ABC.
but whoever died just to make that recall,
right?
Right? How did they catch it? I don't know. So many companies complete rigorous cleaning cycles in between making sure that those products, but the problem lies with the companies that do not have to disclose that. To be safe, you can read the label and call the company to inquire about the other products they make. You got to really bend over backwards for your own health. Huh? You really got to be an advocate.
I mean, I'm looking here and there's several misconceptions, but that one blows my mind.
Yeah. Okay, number 2. Large amounts of allergen are needed to be eaten in order to cause a reaction. Nope. 1 bite of an allergen can't hurt? Nope. It does not take much of an allergen in order to have an allergic reaction. For an example, you can have a life-threatening reaction from a teeny tiny portion particle.
Protein.
Oh, protein particle. Protein particle. These particles are so tiny that they can be invisible to the human eye. Every bite is important, and every bite counts.
See, now, again, just interjecting here, I'm fortunate, knock wood, for everybody who can't see, I'm knocking on my head. Since I don't have a food allergy, I don't think about this stuff. But for people that do, you got to worry about every little thing you eat.
Right. And your daughter does too. Dominic's daughter is really always on it.
Wow.
Misconception number 3. Children never outgrow their food allergies. Thankfully, this is a misconception. While many children do not outgrow their food allergies, many children do. Rates of outgrowing allergies depends on the actual allergen itself. Many sources state that about 20% of children with peanut allergies will outgrow their allergy, but keep the faith, it does happen.
But, okay, if you have...
How do you know?
Well, exactly. If you have a peanut allergy...
Are you going to say, I wonder if I outgrew it?
Exactly.
Oh, no, not today.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. I mean, it's good to know that you can outgrow it, but there's no test.
Maybe you have to go to the allergist.
Yeah, I mean, literally have to go back for that. You can't just, like you say, try it out and see.
Right.
Wow.
Well, I know the allergy tests are not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you just have to have an allergy test when you're older. I wonder if that has to do with like hormones or something. You know, like when they say older, I wonder if it's like
Right.
through puberty. You know, maybe it's a standard thing that if you have a food allergy, you go to the allergist after you've hit puberty to see if you still have it.
Could be.
Maybe.
But on the flip side, I never knew this until a few years back, when my doctor told me that you can acquire an allergy.
Yes.
I thought you either A, had it, or B, you didn't. I didn't know it could go back and forth.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess it's the same way. If you can acquire one, you could
Get rid of one.
get rid of one.
Hopefully. Misconception number 4. Food allergies are very rare and there is a cure. This is a misconception that many of us wish was a cold hard fact, but it's not. Food allergies are more common than you think. Many researchers indicate that there are nearly 1 to 2 children allergic to allergic to some kind of food in each classroom.
Right.
So this is something teachers should know. Currently, there is no cure for food allergies. Well, what about those shots? What are those?
The EpiPen?
Isn't that a cure? Oh, not a cure.
No,
it's a treatment.
It's like for the anaphylaxis.
Right. That's just a treatment for emergency use. That's not a cure. Got it. Okay. Number 5. When you're eating on a restricted diet, you miss out, and there are no good products out there. Well, that's not true. Just because you're eating without something doesn't mean that you're missing without. The number of food allergy-friendly products that are available today is much higher than a few years ago. Even the big box stores are starting to carry delicious-tasting food allergy-friendly products. So supplements, like if you're allergic to dairy, they may have lactate-free. Or almond. If you're allergic to almond milk, then you're going to have to do something else. But
I think this misconception has to do with dieting because there's no real good diet food.
That's true.
So, sorry, I'm just making a little light of it.
Yeah.
But, no, it's good to know that there are a lot of alternatives that are just as tasty and healthy.
Right.
That's good to know.
Right.
Well, I guess this begs the question, Lita, how common are food allergies?
Well, food allergies affect approximately 6 to 8% of children under the age of 3 and up to 3% of adults here in the United States. While there's no cure, some children outgrow their food allergy as they get older. Ron, why don't you tell our listeners about the causes of food allergies?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, when you have a food allergy, your immune system mistakenly identifies a specific food or substance in that food as something harmful. And in response, your immune system triggers cells to release an antibody known as immunoglobulin. I don't know what those fancy letters are, but that's the sign, I guess, for it. But
EIGE?
I guess.
Okay.
But I guess the name is immunoglobulin.
Okay.
So, again, your immune system releases the immunoglobulin to neutralize the allergy-causing food or substance, again, the allergen.
Mm-hmm.
The next time you eat even the smallest amount of that food, the immunoglobulin antibodies sense it and signal your immune system to release a chemical called histamine, as well as other chemicals into your bloodstream. And these chemicals cause allergy symptoms. And in adults, the majority of food allergies are triggered by certain proteins in things such as shellfish, shrimp, lobster, crab, also in peanuts, in tree nuts such as walnuts and pecans, and again, also in fish. As far as children, food allergies are commonly triggered by proteins in peanuts, tree nuts, eggs, cow's milk, wheat, and also in soy. Then there's pollen food allergy syndrome, also known as oral allergy syndrome. A pollen food allergy syndrome affects many people who have hay fever. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm going to be listening to this one.
I hope you were listening to the other parts. In this condition, certain fresh fruits and vegetables or nuts and spices can trigger an allergic reaction that causes the mouth to tingle or itch. And in serious cases, the reaction results in swelling of the throat, or again, even what we talked about earlier, the anaphylaxis.
Mm-hmm.
Proteins in certain foods, such as, in fruits and vegetables, nuts and spices, cause the reaction because they're similar to allergy-causing proteins found in certain pollens. This is an example of cross-reactivity. And when you cook foods that trigger pollen food allergy syndrome, your symptoms may be less severe.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know.
But maybe.
Right.
Well, Mayo Clinic posted a table on their website, and I'm going to put a link to that table. But let me try to describe this table listing the possible pollen-related food allergies. The table shows the specific fruits, vegetables, nuts, and spices that can cause pollen food allergy syndrome in people who are allergic to different pollens. So, for instance, I know I'm allergic to grasses, okay? So, if you're allergic to grasses, you may have a reaction to cucumber, kiwi, melon, like cantaloupe, honeydew, watermelon, orange, peanut, tomatoes, white potatoes, and zucchini. Those are all in the same family.
Right.
If you're allergic to ragweed or pollen, which I have also, you might have a sensitivity to bananas, cucumber, melons, again, cantaloupe, honeydew, and watermelon, and zucchini again.
So let me just interject real quick before you read the other ones. In your specific case, since you have
those allergies,
allergies to grasses and ragweed pollen, do you stay away from these things, or are you much more careful when you eat them?
I never knew about all of this, so this is new to me. But I can tell you that zucchini makes my tongue tingle. I always say it bites.
Okay.
So that must be
interesting.
Yeah, the allergy reaction. But I do eat bananas without any problem.
So it might be some of the foods in these categories.
Right. So, okay, if you're allergic to birch pollen from a birch tree with a white bark, you could also be allergic to almonds, apples, apricots, carrots. This is a big list.
Yeah, it is.
Celery, cherry, hazelnut, peach, peanut, pear, plum, raw potatoes. Who eats raw potatoes? You're not supposed to eat raw potatoes. Soybean. Well, I guess if you're starving, you eat raw potatoes. Soybeans, some herbs and spices like anise, caraway, coriander, fennel, and parsley. That's a big list.
I don't even know what those things are.
Oh, well, you don't cook much?
Not with those spices.
Oh, okay. And then there's something called mugwort pollen, which I don't think I've ever heard of mugwort pollen.
Sounds something like out of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Hogwarts. I'm sorry.
Okay. If you're allergic to mugwort pollen, you might also have a reaction to apples, bell peppers, which are the red pepper, the yellow pepper. They're kind of like you can stuff them with things.
Right.
Yeah. Broccoli, cabbage, carrots, celery, cauliflower, garlic, onion, peach, some herbs and spices, anise, black pepper, caraway seed, coriander, fennel, mustard, and parsley. And I will put this chart on our website.
This is a pretty exhaustive list.
It is. I mean, if you have a food allergy, I guess or a pollen allergy, you have to be aware.
Well, maybe we should talk about the differences between food intolerance and other reactions and food allergies. What do you think?
I think Jean would approve of that idea.
Well,
is she here?
I don't know. I thought I heard her.
I thought I heard her.
She's on the mend. So a food intolerance or a reaction to another substance you ate may cause the same signs and symptoms as a food allergy does, such as nausea, vomiting, cramping, and diarrhea. Now, depending on the type of food intolerance you have, you may be able to eat small amount of problem foods without a reaction. By contrast, however, if you have a true food allergy, even a tiny amount of food may trigger an allergic reaction. And one of the tricky aspects of diagnosing food intolerance is that some people are sensitive not to the food itself, but to a substance or ingredient used in the preparation of that food. So it's pretty complex.
Oh, yeah. What the heck? We got to go to the factories and see how it was manufactured?
Again, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm fortunate not to have any of this, but I can only imagine people that do have these sensitivities and or allergic reactions. I mean, it's like the only thing that you're not really worried about is drinking water. And that can pose a different issue depending on the water you drink and where you live.
Right.
But,
Flint, Michigan, you might be in trouble.
Well, I'm just saying it's, again, if you or a loved one has a food allergy, I mean, you're looking at every single thing.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you go out?
Yeah, right.
You're putting your faith in, oh, well.
Yeah.
Okay. Common conditions that can cause symptoms mistaken for a food allergy, including if you have, if you have a condition,
mm-hmm.
okay, like you have an absence of an enzyme that's needed to fully digest a food. You may not have adequate amounts of some enzymes to digest certain foods. Insufficient quantities of the enzyme lactase, for example, reduce your ability to digest lactose,
mm-hmm.
the main sugar in a milk product. Lactose intolerance can cause bloating, cramping, diarrhea, and excess gas.
Okay.
So that's something that it's a condition that you may have that causes you to have something that's similar to a food allergy, but it's not a food allergy.
Right.
Okay. Another thing would be food poisoning.
Ooh.
Oh, I hate food poisoning. Hate it.
Yeah.
Had it once really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes food poisoning can mimic an allergic reaction. Bacteria in spoiled tuna or other fish can also make a toxin that triggers harmful reactions. My suggestion, do not order lobster when you're in the middle of a remote area, like a farming area in Wisconsin. Why would they have fresh lobster? Why? Go to Boston. Yeah.
But you digress.
Yes. Yeah. Put me in the hospital for 3 days.
Wow.
Sensitivity to food additives. This must be what they were talking about with the manufacturing.
Yeah, with the plant, right.
So some people have digestive reactions to and other symptoms after eating certain food additives. For instance, sulfites. Oh, I've heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
Sulfites, like in hot dogs, right? Used to preserve dried fruit, canned foods, canned goods, and wine can trigger asthma attacks in sensitive people.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that. Histamine toxicity. Haven't heard of that. Certain fish, such as tuna or mackerel, that are not refrigerated properly. Wait. Tuna comes in a can. Okay, fresh tuna.
There
okay.
you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that contains high amounts of bacteria can also contain high amounts of histamine that trigger symptoms related to those of a food allergy. Rather than an allergic reaction, this is known as a histamine toxicity or scombroid poisoning.
I've never heard of that. Wow.
Celiac disease. Well, we've had celiac disease on here. While celiac disease is sometimes referred to as a gluten allergy, it does not result in anaphylaxis. Like a food allergy, it does involve an immune system response, but it's a unique reaction that's more complex than a simple food allergy. This chronic digestive condition is triggered by eating gluten, which is a protein found in bread, pasta, cookies, and many other foods containing wheat, barley, or rye. If you have celiac disease and you eat foods containing gluten, an immune reaction occurs that causes damage to the surface of your small intestine, leading to an inability to absorb certain nutrients.
Wow.
So, since there's no cure, are there alternative therapies or self-care treatment that might help?
Early introduction of peanut products has been associated with a lower risk of peanut allergy. Before introducing allergenic foods, talk with your child's doctor about the best time to offer them. However, once food allergy has already developed, the best way to prevent an allergic reaction is to know and avoid foods that cause signs and symptoms. And for some people, this is a mere inconvenience, but for others, they find it a much greater hardship. Also, some foods, when used as ingredients in certain dishes, may be well hidden. So again, what we were talking about before, if it's not on the list, you don't know that it's in there. So this is especially true in restaurants and in other social settings. If you know you have a food allergy, please follow these steps. 1, know what you're eating and drinking, and be sure to read food labels carefully. 2, if you have already had a severe reaction, wear a medical alert bracelet or necklace that allows others to know that you have a food allergy in case you have a reaction and you are unable to communicate that. And 3, talk with your doctor about prescribing emergency epinephrine. You may need to carry an epinephrine auto-injector, EpiPen. I think everybody's familiar with that. And if you're at risk of let me start that
Carry
over.
it if you are at risk,
Yeah. You may need to carry an epinephrine auto-injector, also known as an EpiPen, which most people are familiar with, if you are at risk of a severe allergic reaction. 4, be careful of restaurants. Be certain your server or chef is aware that you absolutely cannot eat the food you're allergic to, and you need to be completely certain that the meal you ordered doesn't contain it. Also, make sure food isn't prepared on surfaces or in pans that contain any of the food that you are allergic to. Do not be reluctant to make your needs known. Restaurant staff members are usually more than happy to help when they're clearly understood. Restaurant staff members are usually more than happy to help when they clearly understand your request. And then finally, plan your meals and snacks before leaving home. And if necessary, take a cooler packed with allergen-free foods when you travel or go to an event. If you or your child can't take the cake or dessert at a party, bring an approved special treat so that no one feels left out of the celebration. If your child has a food allergy, please take these precautions to ensure his or her safety. Notify key people that your child has a food allergy, meaning talk with child care providers, school personnel, parents of your child's friends, and other adults who regularly interact with your child. Emphasize that an allergic reaction can be life-threatening and requires immediate action, and make sure that your child also knows to ask for help right away if he or she reacts to food. Also, explain food allergy symptoms. Teach the adults who spend time with your child how to recognize signs and symptoms of an allergic reaction. Write an action plan. Your plan should describe how to care for your child when he or she has an allergic reaction to food. Provide a copy of the plan to your child's school nurse and others who care for and supervise your child. And also have your child wear a medical alert bracelet or necklace. This alert lists your child's allergy symptoms and explain how others can provide first aid in an emergency.
Good advice. Well, I hope we covered that topic in enough detail. I certainly learned a lot.
Absolutely.
And we'll be sure to put links on our website with more information from the Mayo Clinic and other sources that we consider to be reputable. If you have any questions or comments related to today's show, you can contact us at PodcastDX@yahoo.com We have a website, PodcastDX.com. We're also found on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram.
And if you have a moment to spare, please give us a review wherever you get your podcast. And as always, please keep in mind that this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regime. And never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast.
Till next week.